Martin Popoff from the Contrarians here, back again with another episode of Reliving Old Reviews is a Useless Tool of Confusion. This is the show inside the Contrarians where we look at an old review of a classic album we've all blabbed about now for decades and decades and decades. We've all considered it. We've all got opinions on it, but we're going to look at a review that was done on the ground when the album was brand new. And I want to thank Chris Jackson for sending in this review. He sent me a nice batch of these to do. And we are going to be looking at a review of Thin Lizzy, Johnny the Fox. Now, check out our other episode. We've got one on Thin Lizzy Jailbreak as well that we did about a month ago as I speak right now. But this is a review of Johnny the Fox. So I'm going to read the review and review the review. It's by HD. Which I'm pretty darn sure is Harry Doherty, who sadly we lost a little while ago. He's been quite a Thin Lizzy expert in his career, interviewed the guys many times. I'm sure this is him. But this is from Melody Maker back in 1976. Let's see what it says here. We get a heading, it says 20th Century Fox. We get a picture, True Signs of a Great Album, blah, 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 picture of Phil. Okay, so the review reads as follows. It would be quite an album that could eclipse Jailbreak. It would be quite an album that could eclipse Jailbreak, the album which established Thin Lizzy earlier this year. It's no mean feat, then, that in the process of nudging its predecessor into the background, Johnny the Fox sharpens the band's identity. Interesting. Right off the bat, I mean, obviously, over the years, Jailbreak has been seen as the better album. I personally like this album a little more. I like that it's got a little more bottom end. It's got a little more warmth to the recording. I don't think it sharpens the band's identity. I mean, it underscores it. It continues the band's identity. But I think it got sharpened more or less on the previous album. And now it's going to actually change again, although Bad Reputation is still of the same identity. But, Black Rose, we get a significant lineup change and on kind of thing, right? But yeah, this, I guess he's right, because the identity of Johnny the Fox is really, really similar, that the product mix to Jailbreak, right? The persona of Jailbreak was that of a solid power chord band, but with plenty of melody, as exemplified by The Boys Are Back in Town, Emerald, and Fight or Fall. Johnny the Fox retains these characteristics and adds to them. There's more subtlety, the melodies are stronger, and most importantly, the scope of the material is much wider than the hard rock associated with Lizzy. I don't think that's true. I think both albums have a very wide range. One isn't way more hard rock down the middle than the other. Only 5 of the 10 tracks are head shakers, and the others range from soft ballads to medium paced numbers. Phil Lynot's writing has at last returned to the versatility that marked Vagabonds of the Western World, the first Thin Lizzy's, the first Lizzy's last release, right? Exactly, the first lineup's last release, the trio. As I said, Lizzy's identity on JTF is more robust than ever due to the contributions this time of all 4 members of the band. Take the 2 guitarists, Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson, apart from playing better solos, Fool's Gold, Johnny, Boogie Woogie Dance Massacre, and Sweet Marie. I always love when someone says something like that. Better solos on this album. I would have never compared them. I have no idea. That would be an exercise to try at some point and see why Harry would say there are better solos on this album. Stand out. Their dual lead work is taken a step further, progressing from the predictable twin runs to the dramatic nuances of Johnny and Old Flame. One minor criticism I would make is that Gorham and Robertson must be careful to avoid overkill. The beautiful Borderline, for instance, suffers from one guitar overdub too many. Interesting. Never really thought about that. Lynott, however, shapes this identity. Apart from distinctive rich vocals, the material he has written seems to draw much from his own past. There's a thread running from his early Lizzy days that seems to be knotted on Johnny the Fox. Interesting. The opening track, Johnny, is in direct line of descent from Little Darling right down to the emphatic use of brass. The rocker from Vagabonds continues in Rocky, with its similarly raucous feel, though the vocal is a little harsh. Yeah, I've never thought of that either. While Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed recalls the funkiness of Black Boys on the Corner. Yeah, that song is not that funky. That's a proper, complicated heavy metal song. I don't think that song is very funky. I love it. I think it's really well put together, but it's pretty heavy. And it's practically an extension of the riff on the latter. Boogie Woogie Dance, let me think about the riff. Maybe the heavy part, I'd like to compare that too. That might be kind of interesting. Boogie Woogie Dance and the old single Randolph's Tango are associated for the obvious reasons. Interesting, and never made that comparison either. They're both about a dance, right? And the Vicious Massacre is a cross between two jailbreak tracks. Creaming off the neo-Celtic riff of Emerald and the crazy chord pattern of Angel from the Coast. Wow, good stuff, Harry. Lyrically, Lynott veers between the viciousness of the street and heartfelt love songs. Johnny and Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed are stories of urban seediness, and Rocky, like the rocker, proudly proclaims the relationship with rock and roll life. The love songs are Don't Believe a Word, complete with stock blues riff and ambiguous lyrics, a la 10cc's I'm Not in Love. That's another great idea, thing to point out, that it's got this negativity thing or double negative thing going on in the lyric, right? This dichotomy, that's pretty cool. The sing-along and Don't Believe a Word, to say there's blues in there, I've never really felt there was much blues in that song. It's almost like he's heard the mellow one, right? The mellow version, right? The sing-along but touching Borderline, Old Flame, a lovely chorus, absolutely great chorus, and Sweet Marie, a poignant, very melodic ballad written with Scott Gorham. I hate that song. There's also the Prospector story in Fool's Gold. On Massacre, Lynott poses a controversial question, especially pertinent to the religious conflict in Ireland. If God is in the heavens, how can this happen here? He asked despairingly. The subtleties of Johnny the Fox are in the little chugging riff hidden behind the main power chord on Johnny. The second crisp drum beat, Brian Downey, is impeccable form throughout, and sneaky bass line on Rocky. The beautiful and admirably restrained orchestral arrangement on Sweet Marie, and the tango middle section that adds a touch of humor to Boogie Woogie Dance. Wow, is there a little tango section there? I don't even remember that. You might also like to know that Johnny the Fox is, I believe, a pseudonym for Lynott, being a reference to the American expression foxy. And there is a loose concept to the album built on recollections of incidents involving Johnny's hectic lifestyle. To conclude, Johnny the Fox represents a Thin Lizzy more versatile than on Jailbreak. It is not as immediately powerful as Jailbreak, but after a few listens, you realize that its power is deceptive, but nevertheless real. There are true signs of a great album. Wow, good job, Harry. That's good stuff. There's a lot of great stuff to dig into there and try to compare. I mean, that's the kind of review that will enhance your appreciation of the album if you went and made all these comparisons. You'd be much smarter about both of these records, comparing all these songs. So that's pretty cool. So there you go. There's another edition of Reliving Old Reviews as a useless tool of confusion. If you want any Thin Lizzy books, I still have Thin Lizzy, a visual biography. I still have my 2-part Thin Lizzy story. The first one's now called Emerald. It's not Jailbreak anymore. Emerald, and then The Sun Goes Down, and the more recent panel book with some Contrarians, where we go through every single studio album, and that is called Honesty Is No Excuse, Thin Lizzy on Record. Hang on, I actually have one handy here. There we go. So that is that one right there. So martinpopoff.com if you want one of those. And I believe these have a color photo section as well. But yeah, it's just Q&A of every single studio album. So that at martinpopoff.com. You can join our Patreon. And please hit the like button if you like this. Subscribe to us. We'd love to get those numbers up. But yeah, if you join our Patreon, that gets you access to being on our panels. Marco sends out a nice list. You can see what's there, and you can be on some of these Contrarian panels. That's been almost our funnest part of doing this entire channel is meeting all these great new friends and doing these panels with them and learning a lot of cool stuff, because there's a lot of wise music swamis out there. So there you go. Reliving Old Reviews is a useless tool of confusion. Go listen to some Thin Lizzy.